Introduced by Catherine. My name's Liam, and as well I look after the revenue development and retail team here at GTR. So before I introduce keyGo, I want to explain that this work comes under the general heading of Rail Plan 2020. We're dealing with the biggest change to rail in generation that is aimed at modernising this part of the network, which is used intensively. It is on an infrastructure that was never designed for the demands that we're now being placed upon it. And to achieve this transformation, we also need to modernise the way we work. We've now launched a campaign to explain this to our customers, which is very much people focused. Hopefully you can see the posters of our staff in stations around our network. We're still in the transition phase of this work. You will have seen the new upgraded trains across the network, bringing in more trains on GTR than the whole of the rest of the UK. The new phase is in the introduction of the timetable. Sorry, the next phase is the introduction of the timetable. The key and keyGo are also a crucial part of transforming passengers' journeys and making it easier to use rail travel. Okay, so we're going to go on to talk now about keyGo. So what is keyGo? Well, keyGo allows customers to pay as they go for their travel using a bank card linked to their Key smart card. So 2 hours after signing up for keyGo, customers can collect and start their first journey at a station which has to be outside of London, which is shown on the map that's available on our website by a yellow dot that's on the map. After the first tap, customers can start and end their journeys at any of the stations shown on the keyGo map using Gatwick Express, Great Northern, Southern or Thameslink services. And then at the end of each day, all the entry and exit taps are analysed to work out the best day fare for the journeys made, and the most appropriate walk-up ticket is charged against the nominated payment card. So this diagram just gives you a kind of slightly more technical overview of how keyGo will work. So as I said, the customer registers online. They then, on their first tap, they then collect the keyGo authority, and then they continue to tap in and tap out, and then at the end of the day, their journey is analysed and they are charged for the journey. So this is very small. I'm not expecting you to be able to read this, so the information is available on our website. But this route map shows where keyGo may be used, which is essentially exactly where the rest of our Key smart card can be used. So on the Great Northern route, it can be used as far north as Foxton and Huntingdon. On the Thameslink route, it can be used from Bedford all the way down to Brighton, and on the Southern network, it can be used west as far as Warblington, east as far as Bexhill. The routes that are not currently enabled are between Redhill and Tunbridge, and also east of Bexhill. So in terms of the fare that you'll be charged, so customers must tap in and out when they travel to ensure that their smart card is validated and the correct fare is charged. Walk-up national rail fares include peak, off-peak, super off-peak, day singles, day returns, travel cards, and tickets that are routed any permitted Southern only or Thameslink only are examples of the type of tickets that we will charge customers when they use keyGo. So where journeys occur within the London zones 1 to 6, fares will be price matched with the equivalent Oyster zone day fare or a travel card fare, whichever is the most advantageous to the customer. If the customer holds a child Key smart card, then child fares will be charged. Fares are standard class only. We have no means of offering a first class variant. It's very much like Oyster or CPay in that respect. It's not currently possible to apply railcard discounts, and I will come on to that later. Journeys made on Gatwick Express and services between Merstham and Gatwick Airport will be charged the national rail fare. Having keyGo means the customer doesn't have to decide what ticket to buy in advance. They just travel, the right ticket's sold afterwards for the journeys they've made. And I think this is really the most important benefit of keyGo, that it takes some of the complexity out of the fare structure for customers. So keyGo can be used with other tickets held on the Key smart cards. If a customer holds a season ticket, for example, keyGo will only be charged for the journeys that occur outside of the season ticket's validity within the keyGo area. If the customer has a smart day ticket on their smart card, the customer must tap in and out at the origin and destination of the ticket to ensure they are not charged additionally through keyGo. But that is only currently on this Southern network at the moment. We don't offer single and return tickets on Thameslink or Great Northern. The customer must still tap in and out even if they hold other tickets on their smart cards to ensure that the correct ticket is applied for the journey and to prevent an incomplete journey charge. So there are some links below where you can find out more information about keyGo and how it works, as well as a detailed set of frequently asked questions, terms and conditions, etc. Obviously, this shows you for Southern Railway, you would just substitute that for either Thameslink Railway or Great Northern Rail if you're on that part of the network. Okay, so that was a bit of a canter through the slide deck. So any questions? Okay, so the first question we've had is from John Rapp. Does keyGo allow travel on non-railway routes, London Underground, for example? So the answer to that is yes and no. So currently, keyGo can be used on Metrobus and Brighton and Hove buses, but beyond that, it's not currently interoperable. The reason for that is that the National Rail fare structure is completely different from the TfL fare structure, which is zonally based. All the National Rail fare structure is based on point-to-point tickets, and as people probably know, the price from A to B versus B to A can in fact vary. So what we are in the middle of at the moment is a joint feasibility study with TfL and RDG, which is sponsored by the DFT, and that's looking at how we might become interoperable with TfL. And if we do that, the idea is that keyGo could be used on TfL services, so buses, London Underground, potentially Thames Clipper, etc., but also on any other train service within the London zones. So that is something that we are working towards, but it's actually quite complicated to develop because it requires us to be able to calculate according to two different fare structures and then compare which of those fare structures or combinations of those fares offers the best value for the customer. Okay, the next question we're going to go to is from Simon Fisher. Simon Fisher asked when railcard discounts will be enabled on keyGo. Well, the good news is that we have been given authority to proceed with adding railcard discounts to keyGo. So the way that will work is, or the way that it's envisaged to work at this stage, is that the customer would go to the station with their Key smart card and with their rail card, and the member of staff would have access to a system that would enable them to load the rail card discount against their smart card. Then when a journey is made which qualifies for a discount, that discount will be automatically applied. So we would envisage that functionality will be made available to customers later this year. Okay, so the next question is from Andy Hamer, and it's about PlusBus and how that could work in relation to the Key and keyGo. It's a good question. So currently, we don't actually sell season tickets with PlusBus on our website. and that would obviously need to be changed. So it's one of those things that we would need to take away and sort of look at the demand for, really. The challenge with that is that the bus company would have to have the right reader on the bus to be able to read what's contained on the smart card, and not all bus operators would have that. So it's not necessarily that straightforward, but it's something that we've not ruled out. So the next question is from Roger Johnson. You did not mention the Thameslink service to Sevenoaks. Is it available? So keyGo is not available down to Sevenoaks. It's available for use as far as St Mary Cray, and the reason for that is St Mary Cray is the last station on that line of route within the London zones. Outside, or rather past St Mary Cray, it is southeastern infrastructure, and Southeastern are on a different, they are not part of the GTR smart card scheme or the smart card network, and currently that's a challenge that we have. It's for the same reason that the key can't be used north of Foxton, can't be used west of Warblington, etc. It's because it goes into another train operator's territory. Now there is another programme of work that we have underway, which is called Smart Ticketing on National Rail, which is a government-sponsored project. And one of the main deliverables of that is interoperability, and what that will enable us to do will be to customers will be able to travel interoperably on kind of inter-TOC networks, and we'll be able to retail products, for example, for Southeastern or for Greater Anglia. So customers would, for example, be able to buy a season ticket and collect that from the gate line at Cambridge, which is currently quite a big blocker for people travelling on the Great Northern route. keyGo is, I think it's really important to make the point that we are the first train operator to launch a kind of account ITSO-based ticketing for National Rail. Other train operators have got this in their kind of pipeline, but it's not live yet. So whilst there are kind of agreements around interoperability in place for established products, we can't make the assumption that will be the case for keyGo, although we would certainly anticipate that once interoperability is kind of achieved, that we will be able to offer keyGo across more than just our own network, but that's something that we'll need to confirm and will require bilateral commercial agreements between GTR and other operators. The next question I've got is from Steve Chambers. Can keyGo be used for journeys originating in the London area but ending outside it? So the answer to that, Steve, is yes. So if a customer already has a key smart card and then they sign up for keyGo, there will be, so the keyGo authority will be sent to the gate line where it's collected when the customer next travels like any other product. If that's the case, then the customer needs to start their journey outside the London area, and we show that on our on the map. They're the stations denoted by the yellow dot. If a customer does not have a key smart card and they were to sign up today, they have the opportunity to sign up for keyGo at the same time. Then when the card is posted to the customer, it already has keyGo loaded, so there is no requirement to actually collect it from the gates. But once it's collected, customers can then travel anywhere on the network as shown on our map, so the lines that are green. So yes, the answer to that is that once keyGo is loaded to the card, customers can travel from inside London to outside London. That's absolutely fine. Okay. So the next question I've got is going from Simon Fisher. To streamline smart card coverage, can keyGo be extended to Watford Junction and Swanley, which are covered by Oyster and contactless? I've kind of covered this before, Simon, but this really falls under the STNR project that I mentioned before, and is linked to the interoperability piece. The reason we're not currently able to offer to enable the key outside of these areas is because they're not our stations, so we don't control the infrastructure and they don't come under the GTR smart card scheme. But that's something that will be resolved by interoperability. So the next question I've got is from Mike Gura. Sorry, but I missed whether it was possible to get a return fare charged if a return journey is recorded within a day. Also, I assume that off-peak fares will be charged if travelling during those times. So the answer, Mark, to those questions is yes. If the customer travels, for example, from St Albans into London, and then they travel back to St Albans, then at the end of the day, the taps will be assessed and the customer will be charged the return fare. They wouldn't be charged two singles, for instance. Similarly, if a customer travels during the off-peak period, then they will be charged the off-peak fare. It's also worth saying that if a customer travels from outside London into London and then they travel around on the GTR network within London, making a number of journeys, that we will also cap at the outboundary travel card price. So the next question I've got is from Francesca Kane. If someone wants to travel from their home station within the London Oyster zone, where key smart cards are not widely known, to stations outside it, e.g. Hadley Woods, Hatfield, how should they organise their ticket? I think that's a really good question. So I think it probably is worth me reining that back a little bit and talking to you about the basis of our retail strategy here at GTR. So we're very much keen to see people move to smart tickets, and within the London area, there's far higher percentage of customer journeys using smart tickets. It's around 80% of in-boundary journeys, which means journeys taking place entirely within the London zones are on a smart card of some description. Now, obviously, most people will use Oyster and CPay to do that, and indeed that is generally the medium that we would encourage customers to use if they're making journeys wholly within the London area. So the Key and keyGo have been much more aimed at people travelling from outside of London, either completely outboundary journeys or outboundary to inboundary. I guess something worth mentioning is that we are at the moment trying to enable action listing, which is the process of sending the product to the gates for stations inside of London. We've enabled about 72 of those at the moment, predominantly on the southern area. The real benefit there will be for people who are season ticket holders. So if a customer, for example, lives in East Croydon and they simply want to travel every day into Victoria or London Bridge, then they are very likely to find themselves better off to do that on a paper ticket, which is because Oyster for a season ticket only offer the travel card product, which is more expensive than the point-to-point product. So once we're able to fully enable our in-boundary stations, then customers would be able to switch to the Key to make those in-boundary point-to-point journeys without having to pay the additional travel card part of the ticket. So you know, in terms of keyGo and how that relates to it, obviously at the moment keyGo can't be used really outside of the GTR network, so it's not valid on London Underground, for example. So probably people wholly travelling within the London area may find that keyGo as it stands is not the product for them, and also by nature of the fact that we can't currently action list the product to the gates for collection within the London area. But there'd be nothing to stop a customer going outside of that area to collect the product and then use it within the London area on our services if they wish to do so. The next question I got from Neil Middleton, which is, can we be more specific about timeframes on the railcard discounts piece? Simple answer to that, Neil, at the moment is no. We've got a number of really big projects running at the moment that cuts across a very limited team within my area of the business, and also it is demanding development of the same suppliers. So what we have to do is we need, once the specifications are understood and we have the final statement of works in them and we approve that, we will then need to work out how that will fit into the other programs of work that we've got underway at the moment. I would hope that we will be able to offer it by the end of the summer. The reason I sound a little bit reluctant to commit on that is that there's also a huge dependency on our station ticket issuing system replacement project, which, as you can imagine, with the number of stations GTR runs, is absolutely huge, because it relies on using those systems for the staff to be able to load the railcard discount. As I say, I would anticipate towards the end of the summer, but please don't hold me to that. So the next question was, can Freedom Passes be added onto the Key Smart card, and if so, how? No, Freedom Passes can't be added onto the Key for the simple reason that this is a TfL product and it's funded by local authorities. So I'm afraid it's something that can't be added to the Key. Okay, the next question I've got, which I think is a continuation from Roger Johnson. From December 2019, Thameslink will be the only TOC on the Sevenoaks line. Well, by that point, we definitely expect to have realised the benefits of the smart ticketing on National Rail scheme, which of course is all around the interoperability point. And certainly, if Go Ahead retain the South Eastern franchise, that will make it an easier process to agree keyGo acceptance on that line of route. The only point that I would make about that I think we need to draw a distinction here between keyGo and the Key. So whilst it's perfectly possible that the Key would be kind of more or less fully interoperable, the same can't necessarily be said for keyGo, because keyGo, for keyGo to work, you have to have a validator at every station. And if there's no validator, then keyGo can't be used because we won't know where the customer has travelled from or to. Now, the South Eastern network is not particularly well off for validators, so there would need to be a separate discussion with that train that train operator, whoever that might be, to understand whether there are any plans to install validators. But if there's a station that has no validator, then keyGo will not be valid at that station, but then the Key might be. Next one's from Roger. You said that your question of 10 minutes ago seemed to be lost. With the new timetable retaining an hourly service between Bexhill and Ashford each day, how soon can keyGo be extended east of Bexhill, recognising that St Leonard's and Hastings are southeastern stations, but others towards Ashford are southern? Well, I have some positive news for you, Roger, which is that the stations east of Bexhill are not currently enabled for the key at all, let alone keyGo, and that's because they were never fitted with validators, because in the scheme of things the number of passenger journeys are relatively small. So back in the Southern franchise, when the key was first rolled out, there was simply not enough. There was simply not enough money available at the time to be able to cover every single station. The good news is that we now have secured the funding to do that, and we expect to complete what we're calling infill stations, which is the stations east of Bexhill. We are going to be doing St Leonard's as part of that work. And also the stations between Redhill and Tunbridge will be done at the same time. This will enable the key to go live, certainly on the Redhill Tunbridge route. We won't, however, be able to enable the stations east of Bexhill until the STNR interoperability work is completed, for the reasons I previously explained, really. I don't then anticipate that extending keyGo would be a particular difficulty, given that, as you rightly say, most of the stations are ours along that line, but it would still require bilateral agreement. So I'm hopeful that, so I think the way it would work is that we would first enable the key for season tickets, and we would then follow that by enabling keyGo. But as I say, that will be subject to commercial agreement with the train operators. They're not under any specific obligation to allow us to do that. The next one's from Neil Middleton. Can you say something about adding Carnet-like tickets to keyGo? Yeah, certainly. So we're aware that obviously there are paper Carnet products on Great Northern and Thameslink at the moment, and I think people like those products, but we'd all like them to be on a smart card rather than on paper. At the moment, we can't contemplate moving those over to the key until we've until we have met a committed obligation, which we have with the Department for Transport, which is to do a trial of flexible ticketing on the key. We plan to start that trial next month, towards the end of next month. And that is on the Uckfield line going into London Bridge. We have told the DFT that we plan to run that trial for 6 months, after which time we will provide feedback to them and some recommendations. It's likely that we will, as part of those recommendations, advise that we should be moving existing Carnet products over to the key. There's a question mark over the best way of doing that. So it could be a product that is loaded like a physical ticket to the key smart card, or as you suggest, it could also be it could be kind of configured through rules on keyGo. There are kind of benefits and drawbacks of both approaches. So we'll need to consider which is the most appropriate one, but certainly we have an appetite to move existing Carnet schemes over to the key. Whether there is any appetite to extend Carnet or flexible ticketing beyond what we already have in the franchise, though, Neil, is not really a question that GTR can answer. As you're probably aware, all of the revenue from tickets goes straight to the Department for Transport within our franchise. So really, it would be a Department for Transport decision as to whether that happens. Next question is from John Rapp. So between London Bridge and St Pancras International, Thameslink is in parallel with the Northern Line. Will Thameslink engineering work give a default to the LU Northern Line? I think what you're probably asking there is that if there's engineering works, would keyGo be valid on the would keyGo be valid on the Northern Line? The answer to that is no. Remember though that customers are only charged through keyGo when they actually make the journey, so when they tap in and tap out. So apart from anything else, keyGo will not work on the London Underground gates because they're not configured to work, except at locations such as Farringdon, which is obviously because we run a service there. So customers would either need to use contactless or Oyster or a paper ticket. But as mentioned before, this is something that we're already working on with TfL and RDG. Okay, so I've got a question back from Francesca Kane, which I think I tried to answer before, but apologies, I think it must have got lost in translation, so I'll try to be clearer. So if you live inside the London area and you want to travel to a station outside of London and use keyGo to do that, I think is the scenario that you're asking. Yeah, the obvious challenge is that we can't currently action list the product to a station inside London. So what the customer would need to do, if you've already got a Key Smart card and you want to sign up to keyGo, you can do that. But to collect the product, you'd need to go to a station outside of London. It only need be one station outside of London. So Potter's Bar, for example. But then potentially buy yourself a paper ticket to make the single journey to get there, and then collect keyGo from the gates. And then once it's collected, you can travel freely within the network. If you don't already have a Key Smart card, then you can sign up to it and at the same time sign up to keyGo. Then when the key card arrives in the post, it will already have keyGo loaded, so there'll be no need to go to a station outside London to collect it the first time. Okay, so I've got a question from Neil. So I have a key season ticket with a travel card and keyGo enabled on my card. Now every time a missed tap in or out occurs within the London zones, I get prompted for an incomplete journey. That's fine, but it doesn't apply context, e.g. miss at Thameslink gate line at Blackfriars, recorded at Underground a few moments later and still get an incomplete prompt, but it should be able to deduce that you've been through the National Rail gate line effectively. I think it's a fair challenge, Neil. I would sort of say that I mean, at the moment, this is really quite early days for us. So we are kind of monitoring the number of incomplete journeys that are being generated and any kind of subsequent charges being made. One of the big things that we wanted to do was to make it as easy as possible for customers to be able to complete incomplete journeys. So customers now have longer to do that, and they have the ability to log into their online account, as you'll know, and self-complete those journeys. We also removed, there used to be a £25 balance that we held on the card, which we've now removed. We now kind of built to zero, as it were. We only charge you for the journeys you made. And obviously what we ask in return is that customers make sure that they touch in and touch out. I'd agree with you that there is a kind of question mark over that logic when it comes to a season ticket holder. At the moment, we are still aiming to keep that logic in place, simply because we have a really big network, and somebody could potentially rack up an awful lot of potential cost without them tapping in and tapping out. Certainly, you know, as we're reviewing the data and so on, we will take your feedback into consideration. I appreciate that there is some additional logic that could be applied. The issue is that all of the gate lines, even within the same station, so the London Underground ones versus the National Rail ones, have got a different national location code. So we are looking for a specific exit at one of our stations rather than a TfL one. So, you know, I'm not necessarily sure what level of complexity it might add for us to be able to kind of put in additional logic, but we'll certainly bear it in mind. So another one from Francesca. I guess that those of us based within the Oyster Zone are simply unfamiliar with Key and keyGo as yet. Should we be publicising the Key smart card and then the keyGo product to our members? And if so, can GTR please supply some clear guidance? So in terms of marketing, we very deliberately did a bit of a slow burn with this. This is, obviously releasing this functionality to live. Was sort of, we had to do at some stage, but we wanted to kind of monitor it to make sure it was working as expected, which broadly it has. We've already written to customers who have a Key smart card and are opted in to receive marketing notifications to tell them about keyGo, and that resulted in around 800 registrations in a week. So since we went live with keyGo, we're just shy of about 1,500 registrations, so awareness is growing. We're also going to be doing vinyls on gate lines shortly, and then we'll be doing a kind of digital campaign. I think we'd certainly be happy to kind of give you some advice about sharing keyGo with your members. We'd certainly like you to do that. So it's something that I'll take offline and speak to Catherine and her team about.
So hello again, everyone. So I think there was an issue with the sound at the start of the video. So thank you very much for joining us. I think we've got through at least 24 questions. So hopefully Liam's provided a bit of clarity on Key and the keyGo product for you. So we will be sharing the playback of this video with all the questions and the answers via the extranet in the next couple of days, which we'll send out a link to you so that you can log on to view it. And also we'll be typing up the answers to the questions as well as an additional document, so you'll be able to use it as a reference going forward. So as I said at the start of the video and previously, we will be doing a series of these with one topic a month over the next 12 months. So we'll be sending out some links for you to be able to register your interest for these events in advance, and then we'll issue a link via Eventbrite 24 hours in advance, so you'll be able to log on. We will be looking to do more of these probably just after the end of the working day, so maybe 5:30 till 6:30ish, just to give it as many people the opportunity to join us. But obviously if they're not able to, they'll be able to log on and view this afterwards. So thank you again for giving it the time for joining us today. Hopefully you found it useful. If there's any feedback you'd like to provide us, please get in touch. We do have an email address for the stakeholder team, which is gtr.stakeholders@gtrailway.com. That is gtr.stakeholders@gtrailway.com, and one or two will be in touch with you soon. Thanks very much.